Please rise, need a roll call, please.
Williams.
Present.
Spalding.
Here.
Newstead.
Here.
Bowl.
Present.
Francescos. Stanley.
Here.
Lolio.
Here.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Respect that.
Okay, first item up is the approval of our agenda. It's a pretty short one today. I don't think we have any edits. Anyone care to submit a motion to approve?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Motion from Mr. Newstead, support from Mr. Spalding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is our initial call to the public. Sir?
Bob Wilson, 2945 Brewer Road. Last night at the board meeting, we heard about the, you guys don't want anything to do with ADUs in the township. And from the last public hearing, where it seemed like 95% of the board was in favor of ADUs, I think it's a disgrace for this board to completely push it off the table. You guys don't know people's situations. You guys might all make plenty of money. He makes 109 grand. I don't know, you make about the same. You don't know other people's positions. I broke my neck in 03. Won my work comp case, but being as I sued somebody for work comp, that put me completely out of the workplace. Nobody's gonna hire anybody in this world that has sued somebody for work comp, whether they won or not. So therefore, I was left with no choice other than to go work minimum wage someplace or open my own business. Thankfully, I lived in this township when we could operate a small business out of our house, and I was able to make a living. What this has turned to, by Mr. Bowl, he's gonna be in court tomorrow. He's gonna create a quorum. So are you, so are me, myself and Mr. Fagan. That's gonna be a quorum. That's illegal for 4 board members to be in the same place. If you didn't have anything to do with it, why do you go there to witness the carnage? Does it make you feel good to see people be punished? With the ADUs, just because you guys make enough money to survive in your jobs that you do, you're going totally against what the rest of this community wants to see. And last night, what Shane, look at this board as rogue. You're rogue as hell. You guys are not working for the community. You're working for a few people that should recuse themselves in a situation when any time a rental comes up. You own rentals, you own rentals. Maybe the rest of you guys do too. But you're rogue and out of control. And it's almost embarrassing to say you're from Howell Township anymore. Thank you.
Anybody else? Sir?
I didn't know if this was related to the subdivision that's going in across on Berkshire, or you still gotta get to that.
That is what we're here to discuss tonight, sir, yes.
That's what I thought, okay, then this is related to that?
No.
No, it's not a public.
Okay. I'm not sure. All right.
Quite all right.
I would just had some comments regarding the increase in the, building on the property on Burkhardt Cross.
By all means, this is your forum.
Okay, well, what I'm coming up with here is the current design was designed for the water drainage to cover the water that's coming off the roofs and the green band is not absorbing it, or isn't there to absorb it, or the roads which have to be diverted into the drainage system. The roofs are probably the last thing that drain into the currently designed drain system because it's going to be relative to the gutters on all the buildings. Sure. So if you increase the building size by 25%, then that tells me we're gonna have 25% more water coming off of the building. Right? Does that make sense?
No, I understand absolutely what you're saying.
Okay.
I
and
do
then
believe that's addressed
decrease
though.
the green space to absorb the water, then you effectively ended up with a 35% increase on that storm system or whatever that water diversion system was designed to do. So whatever those current designs are, I spent a lot of time with the drain commissioner and we talked about and looked at all the design drain systems and it looks like they got it pretty well covered. I was kind of impressed with how much work was done. I'm on the west or the east side of the road directly across from the drainage pit, you know, the currently little swamp that flows under the road over me. So everything that comes off that hillside on the development that flows towards the ditch bank is gonna go under that culvert and over on my side. So I've always had to fight for that, to keep that property from becoming flooded. So my question is how do you increase the load on the currently designed drain system by, let's say, 35%, which is only an estimate, but not redesign the drain system, unless it was designed to handle, you know, a redundant amount of flow, which I don't think probably happened over there, because we've had that problem before over there with the, Chestnut development, that flooded right full of water there a couple of years ago when they had to re-divert some of that. So my concern is that there's not enough diversion at some point. So looking over all the drawings, it became somewhat satisfied that they did all the right work and they're doing the best they can in that. And now they want to increase the building by 25%, which is a lot of money. It's a big profit if you add 25% to your building in the long run.
I can address that when it's for
Okay.
Yep, you will.
That's mechanical buildings, not lawns.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Sir, can I ask your name and address for the record?
Ends up in my swamp over there, you know, which I own a swamp, but it's got a hill in the back and the sheep wants to build on it. So I gotta watch the water, there's been a couple of times where it's just, you know, the plan was just flooded, you know, and so we've been fortunate enough to keep it under check.
I wasn't about that protection.
And that is-
No, no.
Sir, can I ask your name and address for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry, Michael Dempsey. I live on Crandall Road, but I bought that as an investment years ago.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? I see your hand back there.
Karen Holden, I live on Mason Road on the south side of it, so it's Marion Township. But we have a farm and it faces all that area. What I'm concerned about is the water too. I'm concerned that we're thinking of filling up wetlands. Wetlands are really important. And why? And there's a well-protected area too. That means those wetlands are on top of our aquifer. It could get, if it gets contaminated, we're just out of luck. Because everybody in this whole area uses that aquifer. So that's what really bothers me, and I don't understand why. I mean, I was reading the master plan, and everything says, oh, we need to, people love the green spaces and the rural atmosphere, and they just keep building and building. And I thought, well, at least we got that space. I know that it floods all the time. It had been farmed, but it's always too wet. And I just, who is it that decides about the wetlands. I mean, Eagle does, but they are, I don't know what side they're on. It seems like they just want to make money or something for the permits. So many of us reading the plan over and over. They kept saying, we want green space, we want open space. Well, yeah, it's in the northern part of the county, but who drives by there? Nobody. If we could keep some green space over where we are, and it would make it feel rural. It doesn't feel rural at all anymore. Let's see. We're supposed to, it said a woodland, part of the plan was a woodlands protection plan. That means not cutting down trees. And well, of course, the wetlands one. And all this building, especially, it's on an aquifer. It could be easy to contaminate the water. And once that happens, I mean, everybody drinks from that water, from that aquifer. And it was the township who made it be a well-protected area. So why is it one if it doesn't matter? I think the township should just say no to any development that's on that aquifer. Why did they make it a well-protected area in the first place when you let people do what they want to do there? It's not right. I was looking online at things. The EPA, everybody, they talk about the importance of preserving wetlands, the importance of recovering them if they're not working anymore, they're not wetlands, restoring them. Nobody talks about destroying them except this township right now. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's wrong. I do not think that should go to that trouble, all the trouble to turn it into an Eagle would do it too, with the township, I guess. To make it well protection and then ignore what that means. Because if there were like a couple houses there, okay. But how are they, people don't know what a a lot of people don't know what a well-protected area is. And so they dump things on the ground. And you have all the more people out there, they could be doing it too. I mean, when I first moved in, I didn't know what it was. And I remember poured some paint down in my driveway. That could have gotten into the water supply. And they can't uncontaminate, well they can, but it takes a real lot of money to do it. And they probably won, and we'd have to find another water supply. And that's what I am upset about. And I don't think it should be allowed. I think maybe, I don't know who to call, who to talk to about it, except everyone here. So that's what I'll say. I'm for clean water, clean drinking water. We all drink it.
So to add to that, I believe that any water that's coming from that side of Burkhart that this subdivision is gonna be on, send it to the Red Cedar. Keep it off the wellhead protection area. Or restrict lawn chemicals. Nobody's allowed to use chemicals on the lawns over there. It's just going right into the aquifer.
That would apply to farms too though, right? That also apply to farms?
I don't know, maybe. But I mean, nothing's gonna get this way from the Red Cedar. You're laughing, you guys are on road.
Everything.
Sir, we're not, Logan, I take offense to that insinuation.
I take offense to what you guys do.
Well,
Well,
it
maybe
says
we could-
everything's designed on the plant master plan to run to the east from
Right.
there anyway.
Right.
So they've already got that in the design.
Right, but that little river that you're talking about runs back and forth.
Well,
Depends.
that's a soaker anyway.
Right.
Okay, nothing further. We'll move on to our next item, which is what we're here for. A public hearing on the Heritage Square request to modify the PUD to increase lot coverage percentage. Mr. Moore, can you tell us the planner's findings on this proposal?
Yes, so the applicant is requesting an increase in the maximum lot coverage from the current 30% to 40% for the single-family detached homes in the development. And the previously approved PUD spans 95 acres with a mix of residential options, and with the proposed basins being sized to the footprint of the largest planned housing units. The applicant's amendment request was intended to accommodate larger home designs as well as amenities such as decks and patios for those who wouldn't be able to on their lots currently. Per the planner's review of the applicant's request, we note that the increased lot coverage should not impact the existing infrastructure, the originally proposed open spaces, and it is our opinion that it will be able to maintain the intent of the PUD.
Okay. It looks like, they've got a small diagram here of their largest footprint. That's at 39.9%, and the concern is if the homeowner wishes to put on a 200 square foot deck or a 10 by 10 screened room, they'd be over that limit.
That that diagram includes the 200 square feet deck and the 10 by 10.
Okay, I was looking, okay, that's at 39.9, so it must include those two additions.
Yes, it does.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Moore regarding the review? It's pretty cut and dried, I think. Thank you, sir. Okay, can we hear from the applicant?
Well, you want me to start by addressing the public's concerns first?
If you wish, sir.
I guess let's go back to a little bit of history here. When we first came to the township with the plan, we were reporting a little under 30% coverage. We found we had an error in what we were using in that calculation. We were using the average lot size instead of the minimum, which is what we were supposed to be using. We found the error, so we came back to the township and asked, what do we need to do about this to make this right? So we found out we had to come back before planning commission and the board to get approval of the amendment to the PUD, because we're not going smaller, we're going larger, or whatever. We're making it worse, not better. So what we did is we went back and we looked at the minimum lot size. We took the largest possible footprint of the house that could be built on it with the 10 foot by 10 foot bonus room with 200 square feet of deck or patio. And then we compared that to the smallest lot size, and it came up just under 40%. Now, keeping in mind that they have a roughly an even distribution of their home sizes or footprints that they build on these lots. So about 20% of the lots would probably have that largest house on it. About 20% of each of the sizes down to the smallest house footprint. Not only that, most of the larger homes that are built will be built on the larger lots also. The smaller lots, they probably would feel a little bit cramped with that large footprint. So that being said, if you took, keeping in mind this is an open space development, so we have about 366,000 square feet of open space just in the single family area, usable open space, not including permanent water, not including regulated wetlands. I didn't even include the central wetland, which Eagle said is not regulated. And if you add that into the calculation, it's about a little over 2,000 square foot per unit. That brings us down under 30% if you include the community open space in that calculation. So overall, we have about the same max coverage as a similar traditional development without the open space.
Right.
Now, to answer some of the concerns of the public, one of the first concern was about the maximum going to a larger house size. The issue really was just in the coverage calculation in our plans, we had assumed an average instead of a minimum. Our drainage calculations were all performed considering the largest house being put on each side. So we already had that included in the drainage calculations and the sizing of the ponds. So the ponds are already sized to have the largest footprint on every single site. So we're actually a little bit over-designed on the ponds, even with the coverage. As for wetlands, I completely agree. We need to preserve the wetlands that we have. And that's exactly why if you look at this development, it kind of snakes through the site. There are these large areas that are undeveloped. On our site, we have roughly about 1 million square feet of regulated wetland. I think all in all, we are disturbing about 3,000 of them for the development. And of those 3,000, we're being asked to mitigate, I think, by donating to the state's wetland fund to make up for it. So we did our best not to touch the wetland and to maintain what's there. Plus any of the flow that we have coming off of the sites, the roads, all the paved areas, is anything coming off impervious area is being treated in the ponds. It's going to the ponds first, and then it's all being discharged to the east. Even the east side of the site is going to the west towards the Red Cedar River, west. So the easterly pond, the outlet pipe goes from that all the way over to the larger wetland to the west, which is directly back to the Red Cedar River. As for wellhead protection, I don't believe residential development is looked at as being precluded in wellhead protection areas at all. Gas stations, of course, they don't want those there. Industrial developments, dry cleaners, obviously we build those. But, and as you also mentioned, most farm fields use way more pesticide and herbicide than people's lawns do. So I guess all in all, we've done the best to create a development that works with the natural environment instead of against it.
I don't think that works with it. I don't think you should do anything on the wetland.
Well, I
Or
mean,
dump anything.
we're barely touching the wetlands. We're maintaining over 1 million square feet of wetlands on that site. We're touching around 3,000. Which we have to in some areas just to make the development work.
A lot of that was a big drainage ditch on the east or west side.
What's that?
Isn't there a big drainage ditch on the west side?
To the west of our property, is Red
Right.
Cedar River, so.
Did you have to ditch some of that? That was a little wetland, ditch
No,
to
we
make
haven't.
the drainage.
No, we haven't done anything with that.
Well, but in the plans, they're showing
Are you talking about the south corner, that small area?
heading for the southwest corner, there was a ditch down through there.
Oh, that was, they built that ditch to help with the outlet from
Right.
the Chestnut development.
So that was probably part of it, I think.
So I also talked to the drain commissioner about the Chestnut development. Their issues that they had is because they originally built that pond discharge to the second pond, very large, open, permanent water surface area, which helps treat it and remove a lot of pesticides and, fertilizers from it, so.
I've got to manage some commercial properties in the past, and nothing even approached 40% of the lot size. Even the home building, normal house building, they don't use what, 20% of the lot size?
A lot of,
As it was prohibited.
yeah, a lot of townships allow about the same max coverage, but they just consider buildings, they don't consider driveways, sidewalks.
Right, no, they're just talking buildings.
Powell Township counts everything, so for that coverage, that includes the driveway,
Well, the pavement and
the
everything.
sidewalks, the front patio, the rear patio, everything is included.
So the roads and the pavement going to the property?
That's
That's all part of that 40?
We're just talking about the parcel itself, so just the driveway. The 40% includes the driveway, the sidewalk home from the driveway.
Anyway, it seems like a lot to me.
Yeah. But anyway, if there's any questions from the, planning commission, we got it.
Looking at the engineering report, they had a couple concerns. This is dated the 20th. Have you had a chance to review the spatial report?
Yes, yeah, we've actually revised the plans and resubmitted today. Okay.
I mean, a lot of it was just or changes to, updates to the documentation for your plans.
So they also brought up the point of whether the max coverage would affect the drainage calculations. And I'm hoping I answered that question well enough for you. I don't know if you understood it the way I answered it, but basically our original calculations already accounted for the larger house size.
Yeah, you calculated for the largest house on every parcel, which is,
Actual impervious area. We did even, the coverage calculation was completely independent and separate from the detention calculations.
On the house itself, when you're talking about decks and patios, was this figured in? I mean, are you saying that some of these houses couldn't have a deck or a patio?
No, all be allowed to have a deck or patio.
Okay.
Even the largest house at that 40% max coverage could allow on their site plan up to 200 square feet of deck or patio. So that's on the smallest lot.
I just had a couple of points. I think when you increase coverage, lot coverage percentage, you know, your very first concern is drainage and that. It seems like that's been addressed. Wetlands, as far as destroyed, you said 3,000 square feet have been destroyed total. So about maybe 2 of your houses, and mitigation, I don't know if everyone knows, the developer or somebody is paying to create wetlands, not there, but it might be in Fowlerville or Houghton or someplace, okay.
But it affects our drinking water. That's the problem, yeah, we can build them in other places, but what does it do for the residents of Holland? Nothing.
And then, so it looks like, my calculation, about 19–20% of the lots are that small size on there, okay. And then the lot coverage, Jonathan, when somebody comes in this development in 5 years or whatever, and they wanna put a deck out or something, is one of the checking points gonna be you're over the 40% because of the house model you picked or any other things? You look at that, correct?
Lot coverage is an item that
Is it, okay,
we check,
okay,
yes.
that's it.
So of that 3,000 square feet of wetland that we're filling, there's a small isolated wetland right along Burkhart Road that's south of the larger pothole there. It's kind of right at the end of the curve where the turn lane for the church is, kind of right in the field there. And it got developed basically when they built that turn lane. So all we're doing is to save that wetland, we'll put a hole right in the middle of our site there. So that's the larger, the there's a very small pocket of wetland that comes into the parcels on the northeast corner of the site. So we're just touching the edge of that. But we pretty much designed, if you look at the layout of the site, it pretty much follows the wetland limits everywhere except for where it just wouldn't make sense for that little area.
But now if you have larger lot sizes now.
They all could potentially go to 40% rate, yeah.
So
If-
what's the
if
largest
this-
lot size that you have?
Oh, we've got, I think our largest is over 12,000 square feet, so about a quarter acre.
So 40% would be 6,000 square foot home?
Yeah.
Full
No,
time?
they're not putting 6,000 square. The largest,
That would be 40%.
they could potentially build that,
Right.
but the largest footprint that MI homes that we put on these sites is 2,200 square feet, I think they're equivalent.
Yeah, but once you make it where it's legal to build 40%
I thought it was
on that lot,
1,600
there's no
square
lot
feet.
to be eligible for that option.
Yes, correct, it could be potentially.
Right, so then what point would we prevent that from happening? Or how can we interfere with that?
1604 looks like.
Yeah,
Biggest one.
1604.
I mean, it's current 30% on the total.
That's just the footprint. That'd be like the first floor footprint, not including the second floor.
Oh, footprint, that's.
Yeah, it'd be whatever the basement going in the ground.
Why can't you just have less houses?
This is getting a little out of
And
hand.
then they have,
Well, frankly, if you wanted to buy the property, you could years ago.
no, I like open space.
Everybody does.
I was a little confused about your square footage, but I think my counterpart here mentioned that.
I think Matt squared us
Yeah,
away.
there's usually square footage of the house and the footprint of the house that it covers.
Yeah, well, I seen the footprint 1,600, but then the second story
Mhm.
would make the difference up, because, yeah, it says the largest footprint is 1,600 square feet, so. That on,
Correct, that's the footprint of the house, not,
does that
39.9%.
the
include,
actual roof.
does that include the sidewalk and driveway?
That is the actual roof area of the house.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And then the sidewalk and the driveway are added in up top in that calculation. If you look up at the
Okay.
single-family residential right below that,
Oh, yeah.
you've got max home footprint, 1911 square foot, which is Juliet with bonus room and deck. So it's a 1,600 with the
Yeah, that's-
bonus room and deck.
And we,
Because of the 90.
I'm sorry, I didn't interject as well. My name is David Strong of MI Homes. We're the developer and builder of the detached single-family residential section. In working with Carlisle Whitman and Jonathan, we were thoughtful in how we approached this with guidance from staff to include that maximum 200 square foot patio on the back, because we didn't want to leave anything for interpretation on the back end. If somebody moves into their home and we maximize the footprint or the lot coverage with their home, and then they wanted to put a deck on after, we didn't want to have to create any hardship for the township nor for the future homeowner. So we wanted to, it feels like it's a big jump, we just wanted to make sure that it was all encompassing and didn't create any headache or heartache in the future.
Okay.
I'll ask you guys a question, so I think that gentleman's question was kind of interesting, if you will expand this. See, I guess my question, David, maybe you can answer, you've kind of told us what size house you're gonna build, but if we do give you this allowance, can you change the size of the house on it? That was a valid question.
Yeah, I think that was a very valid question. So the home plans that we intend to offer here range in square footage from about 1,900 to 2,700 square feet would be the biggest, with the biggest 10 by 10 option on the back of that home. To answer your question, yes, somebody could, if the market allowed and somebody wanted to come in and build that. We don't intend to offer bigger homes. If
there was a one-off situation where somebody wanted to build bigger, I guess they could, but they would still be capped by that maximum 40% lot coverage. So that,
Yeah, but if it's a 12,000 square foot lot, 40% would be
but, you know,
5,000 square foot.
but that's inclusive, that 40% is inclusive of the driveway, the walkway.
Well, but that's not what's coming up. They didn't figure that other one with the driveway. When you're using, for example, didn't have the driveway figured into that would be roof.
So our calculation includes, so it's from the road right of way to the garage, that driveway section, and then the lead walk, so the walk, the sidewalk from the driveway to the front porch, and then again, up to a 200 square foot patio on the back of the home, so.
I'm just worried about water, you know, green space soaking up the rain.
Yeah,
If
you know,
we get like that one summer where it rained all summer long,
Yeah, I hear you loud and
I
clear.
mean, it was awful.
So Kevin worked closely with, the drain commissioner's office to, double and triple check the calculations on the detention basins. And it was confirmed that indeed that, initial calculation, the initial basin calculations, were sized for that maximum house, footprint, that 40% maximum house footprint that we're suggesting today. Our intention tonight is just to kind of, dot the i's and cross the t's, based on a slight oversight on our part that we base this on an average and not the smallest. But the calculations up front were done correctly, thank goodness, and the basins are sized accordingly.
Anything further from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, on the engineer's report, I don't know who would be the best person to answer this, since we don't have them, but it says on the first page, under grading and drainage, this second paragraph, it says, stormwater detention and conveyance calculations have been reviewed and no issues were noted. However, according to the Livingston County Drain Commission letter dated November 20th, an increase in the C value due to greater lot coverage will result in a storage deficit. Was
Yeah,
that
that's-
clarified, or
That's what we already clarified with the drain commissioner's office, David.
do we have some type of
I have an email.
paperwork
from
or anything for
saying
that?
it's fine, but the plan submittal I sent out today, my response to them covers all that. That comment is pretty much directly right out of the drain commissioner's letter.
Okay.
So
Well, we've never,
I-
I haven't seen the letter.
Yeah, no.
That was my
I-
concern.
I responded in the same way I just told you, is that our drainage calculations did actually consider actual impervious area of the largest footprint house on each site, so.
What's the percentage of the largest footprint house is gonna be in the development?
Well, I think we went through this, MI Homes generally does kind of an even distribution of they have 5 different house plans they're gonna use, so about 20% of the largest down to 20% of the smallest.
So I noticed your square footage didn't vary a whole lot between the models that were on here.
That's
A foot, 100, 200 feet?
Well, it goes from 1,600 down to 1,300, so a few hundred square feet, that's the actual roof area. So some of those might actually be a smaller square footage house because it doesn't have as much second floor area in it, so.
Okay. And if I could ask, do we have any type of price range and approximation what these are gonna be priced at?
So what's important to us here is that we deliver homes that are, attainable price. We used to stand in front of folks like you and talk about affordable pricing, but affordability and affordable is, it's a moving target. So, our homes are gonna be priced from the mid 300s. So we think the average sales price will most likely be in the upper 300s, maybe touching the low 400s for the largest plan.
Okay. So part of the problem with this whole project, because it's been going on since 21, I know we've been on this since 21. I mean, this is like the third iteration that's come back, and it's no one's fault, I guess, but it's where we're at, and it confuses things quite a bit. but I think I recall there were concessions made for the original one with the lot sizes, that they were, and I think, like, the required lot size was, the width was 70 feet, and proposes, some of the lots were only 50 feet wide in some spots.
254 is that nearest lot.
Okay. And then you have a side setback of 7 feet with 14 total, so, I mean, between houses, is that 14 feet? Would you say it's between me and you?
Yeah, probably about right.
Okay. And then the rear setback was down to 25 feet, so I mean, I'm kind of concerned about the lot sizes.
The rear was,
I'm just, the proposed was, the required was 40 feet, but 25?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And then the driveway is the front is 25?
24.
24.
Plus the 1 foot back.
Because I think there were some
25
concern,
feet to the front of the
so if you actually parked on it with a,
Correct.
with a
We were
full-size
allowed to go
extended
to
cab,
20 front, but we stayed at 25 so we could put a car between the garage and the sidewalk.
was there any consideration maybe making the lot sizes a little bigger or making the houses smaller?
You lose more units too.
Sure.
So, I mean, everything was considered, I can consider that.
Okay. Because it seems like everything is being kind of, with the drainage and everything, is being pushed to the max, and you have to understand we have had drainage issues in that area.
Oh, I understand.
Um,
And that's why the ponds are as large as they are, compared to these, some other developments, these things are pretty generous.
So, in our PUD ordinance, which is 15 pages long, section 2706, the regulatory flexibility, and it says, to encourage flexibility and create consistency with the planned unit development concept, the planning commission may recommend and the township board may grant a waiver from the requirements of this article as part of the approval process as follows. And it says yard lot width, minimum lot size, density, bulk standards, and other supplementary design standards may be modified provided that such modification may result in a more creative design. Does this do that in your eyes? Does it make a creative design?
That's why I did bring up the point of the open space, you take the open space in the development and you add that into the lot size. It actually is, would create a coverage of under 30%.
So there's actually three things, and the other one is an arrangement of infrastructure that is more economical and or sensitive to the existing natural features. Would increasing the lot coverage classify as that, do you think?
No, there's other qualifications.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Something, if I may add, as we've worked through the process with the Eagle on our wetland permits, there was a request from them to add conservation easements over the wetlands. And we've done so. Those conservation easements will have signage along the edges, and where the wetlands back to, or the homes back to the wetlands, will be split out fences. We all know what happens. Some folks just,
Keep going out.
push and dump, and I just wanted to point that out to you because we're in the, probably within a week or maybe 2 weeks of having the wetland permit issued, and that was an important part of our efforts with them over the last few months.
Okay. Mr. Chair, my next question is probably to our zoning administrator. I have asked this question at several different meetings, do we have a final PUD agreement on this project?
So the township has been working, one of the requirements when the preliminary PUD came before the board, the planning commission recommended approval of the PUD, of the preliminary PUD. The county looked at it and the township board looked at it and they recommended approval with the condition of coming to a PUD agreement as called out in our ordinance. So we've been working with our attorneys and MI Home and their attorneys to craft a PUD agreement. And so just probably a couple weeks ago that we finally come to a version that essentially both sides are agreeable to. And so that will be part of the, when whatever happens tonight, once it gets to the board, because the board has not considered the final PUD approval, so we're waiting on this last step. So once this step reaches the board, the board will decide on the final PUD, including, again, whatever is tonight. And part of that, honestly, before that discussion happens, they will consider the PUD agreement and essentially vote to accept it. And as long as they accept it, then they can accept the PUD. If there's changes that have to be made, then changes have to be made. But that agreement has to be in place prior to the board, passing a final approval vote for the PUD.
So has this planning commission passed the final site plan for the PUD
Yes.
without a site agreement?
Well, the condition was placed by the board, so this body would make a recommendation on the final PUD. It's already done so.
Okay.
Okay, anything further, commissioners?
Mr. Chubb, are you gonna like build a model and people would come in there and pick a lot and build a house, pick a house plan and do that, or are you gonna build houses and sell them or a combination of that?
So we definitely will have a model home, fully staffed, 7 days a week model home. And we'll do a combination of to be built, so folks come in and pick their lot, pick their home with their specifications, and then what we call quick moving homes or spec homes. We'll do a combination of both to ensure that we have steady momentum of building through the community, because there's folks that need to move in quickly, and there's other folks that are willing to take the time to go through the entire building process.
Lots won't be sold to an individual and they can build their own house, right?
No.
Okay.
It'll be all managed and owned and managed by landlords.
Quick question. Are only certain house plans gonna be allowed per certain lots? Like your bigger plan only allowed on, larger lots, so it doesn't get put on one of the smaller lots?
So the calculation that you're considering today, really would allow all homes to be picked, to be placed on all lots. And why we picked that maximum 40% lot coverage is in the event that Mr. and Mrs. Smith come in and want the Juliet plan, the largest home plan, on one of the smaller lots, that lot coverage is adequately placed there, that when it comes in for zoning compliance, there wouldn't be any issues on the other end.
Okay.
Now, as Mr. Kevin stated, we have a fairly equal representation of our home plans throughout our communities. So we have 5 home plans here. About 20% of each of the plans tend to be built within the communities, but a lot of that's driven by the buying public and what the market demands are. We have a strong suspicion based on our market research that the sweet spot here is probably going to be our 2 middle plans. The 2,200 and maybe 2,400 square foot plan would be probably the fastest paced sellers and probably represent a majority of the home sites within the community. Each of those has 4 elevations, and we are sticklers on what we call our monotony code. So, we're not building the same elevation, same color, same plan, home after home after home after home. We want to make sure there's separation with elevation styles and colors and exterior color schemes, so that you drive down the street and you don't see just a cookie cutter same home one after the other after the other after the other. And we manage that ourselves.
And just so I understand, sir, the concern was not so much with the footprint of the home, the largest home on the smallest lot, that would violate that 30%, but it was the addition of a 200 square foot deck and a 100 square foot morning room onto that.
Those are all included in 40%.
Right, but without those, does it meet the 30%?
I'd have to check. but
With,
no,
uh,
it's-
with-
I
I
don't
mean,
think
that's your calculation was the average and not,
Yeah.
that's the smallest, so, yeah.
And the smallest lot, if you didn't include the deck and the bonus room, it's about approximately 6,000 square foot lot, that's 300 square feet. You'd be about 35% then, without the.
Right, I recall you said you use the average lot size in your calculations rather
Yeah,
than
that's-
the
that's-
smallest with the
when
biggest.
I guess, not that it matters who caught it, but when we caught it, we brought it to the county's attention and said, how can we make this right, so.
Okay, well, if we have no further questions, we entertain a motion for,
Mr. Chair, I think we
Sure.
have to open a public hearing.
oh.
Point of order.
Okay, we do have a public hearing on this topic. We do ask that you keep your comments on topic and relatively brief. So I think we've probably heard quite a few of it already, but should anyone wish to express themselves, we are opening the public hearing. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on Heritage Square, PC 2024-15, parcel number 406-32-400-013.
I'll support.
Motion, support, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any additional public input on the project? Sir?
You know, I read the census report for 2024, it says the average household or individual income in Livingston County is $45,000. And I don't see any government agencies doing anything to accommodate the average income in this community. And I think that's just wrong. We have nothing going on where the average income people can afford houses. And that bothers me. And I also think it's really sad that the people that are contaminating our earth are not the ones that have to worry about getting sick by it. I'm done.
Thank you. Anybody else? With that, we have a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved. Support.
Okay. Excuse me. Moved by Robert Spalding, Tim Wolf second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have a vote to approve this amended PUD? Or would that be at our next meeting?
I'm sorry?
The request to modify this PUD,
Right.
are we voting on this?
Yes.
And recommending it? Okay.
You're making a recommendation to
I
the
wasn't sure if
township
that was
board.
the case or it was just a public hearing about it. I presume so, but. Okay, well, with that input, does anyone wish to submit a motion regarding the Heritage Square request to modify the PUD to increase lot size coverage to 40% from 30%?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the amendment to increase lot coverage from the originally approved 30% to 40%, subject to an engineering review of the stormwater capacity, even though it sounds that that's already been done, on parcel 4706-32-400-013, otherwise known as the Heritage Square development.
Thank you, sir.
Support?
Motion from Mr. Spalding. Who is the second? Mr. Newsted. All in favor?
Mr.
Aye.
Chair, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Newstead,
Yes.
Francescos, Spalding,
Yes.
Lolio,
Yes.
Stanley,
Yes.
Bowl,
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, our next agenda item is other matters to be reviewed by the commission. There are none on the agenda. We will move on to our second call to the public. Seem to be talking to the public a lot tonight, which is a good thing. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Can I fill 40% of my lot at my house, Mr. Hohenstein?
Sorry,
Can I fill 40% of my lot on my property?
you guys want to answer his question?
Well, you'd probably have to apply for it, and it would have to be approved, but can you back up cement mixers and fill your 40% of your property with concrete? I can't imagine that's
What's
legitimate.
that?
I don't think you can just build randomly on your property and take up 40% of the lot, but if you had approval to do it, certainly.
I was wondering, it just seems a little bit of favoritism here, that's all.
Oh, there's lots of open space with this development as well. I mean, it's,
I'll build, I don't care about, I'll build what I want to build.
Mr. Chair, can I just say something? Claire, I'd like to just talk about why I voted the way that I did.
of course.
So the wetlands, this has already been approved. I just wanted to explain that. You know, that ship has sailed. They've been approved. But they did address the wetlands, which we're all concerned about. The drainage was a huge thing. It looked like they came in prepared to address that. And the open spaces and the notice that we got, it didn't affect anything. So I just I understand your concerns, but I just wanted to explain why they've kind of met all the criteria that they were set and for, and I just wanted to say that's why I voted for it.
That's why I moved for it.
Yeah, I saw it was essentially a calculation error that when corrected showed that they weren't within range of the biggest on the smallest. And I think folks ought to be able to put a 20 by 20 deck and a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 deck and a 10 by 10 room on the back of the house without no penalty.
You bet.
Okay, if we have nothing else from the public, sir.
I just want to make one short comment that I still think that 40% is a huge amount of money in large lot conditions, and that would be my fear, is not being able to enjoy the rainwater. If somebody decided to build a 5,000 square foot footprint, and if it was a 4-story, it'd be what, a 20,000 square foot house, and technically, on one of those lots, then we've got somebody with way more money than we can probably fight, and I don't know what the ordinance is now. But if water comes up again, we're gonna have a lot of problems over there. And it's happened before. I'm just here to, just to reiterate, that kind of I can see maybe a maximum house footprint size, security of those large lots. But what's to prevent coming back and dividing the large lot into 2 lots, and then build at 40%? That's my concern.
You couldn't deviate from the plan.
We're just talking about the water one.
They couldn't deviate from a plan, taking all the lots and dividing it, right? They've already laid out the houses. Okay, so,
I just don't know, footprint house right across the road. I mean, that was so the Walmart, you know.
Yeah, Bill won't spend it, but I want my property up. Okay, well, with no further comments from the public?
I'll move to
entertain
adjourn.
Jumped right on it.
Support.
Adjourned from Robert, support from Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight.
appreciate y'all coming out on your night off, especially my apologies for.
You paid for
finding
it,
your
right?
personal time.
You paid for it.
Pardon me?
You paid for it.
Yeah, thank you.
And have a good night.
Thank you.
I worked with Paul, was that the
Matt Stanley. Yeah, last week was my, last week was the first time.
Do you want these?